Creating manga is a tradition that has been around in the East since 12th century in the form of scroll art. Though the first serialized manga, Sazae-san by Michiko Hasegawa, was published back in 1946, since then the art form has evolved uncontrollably in Japan and has taken hold in nearly every aspect of the culture. Manga fans can find manga about nearly anything, from manga about American football, basketball, and tennis to manga about superheroes, aliens, or mystical powers. The art form has truly taken a life of its own. But behind all of this are the humble mangakas who have been dedicating their lives to perfect their craft and telling incredible stories. So let's dive into some of the greatest work of art across the entire medium of the manga. And before starting the video, I would like to tell you guys that if you haven't read any of the 15 mangas that I'm gonna tell you in this video, you should read each of them because each of them has incredibly detailed artwork. And that means the mangaka deserve all the recognition that they are getting. So if you haven't read any single even one of them, then you should do it. So yeah, without any further ado, let's start with our video. On the 15th number, the manga name is Vinland Saga. In Vinland Saga, we are introduced to a Viking world, a world of historical fiction rich with culture and testing the limits of your survival. There is an anime based on the same name of the manga. It's a show that teaches more than about survival. If you are ready to embark on this epic adventure, then be ready for the 24 episode saga like you have never experienced before. And if you will enjoy that anime, you should start with the manga, definitely. Thorfinn is an Icelandic protagonist, a character with complex personality driven with ambition. After the death of his father, he becomes a warrior, someone who will do whatever it takes to get his revenge. In this 11th century, the audience must understand how barbaric life is. Every day is an adventure where possibilities are almost limitless and any day can be your last. On the 14th number, the manga name is Inuyashiki. What it means to be human is a topic that has been discussed and explored throughout many works of science fiction. I have seen this idea and concept brought up so many times that I have lost count. Inuyashiki brings up this concept, but twist it in such a way that you haven't really seen it before. The premise of Inuyashiki isn't too horribly complicated. A man by the name of Inuyashiki is living a very boring, unfulfilled life. His family doesn't care all that much for him. He doesn't do a whole lot throughout the day and is seen as a burden most of the time by the people he loves. One day he decides to take his dog out to the park. There, he and another young man, Hiro, gets crushed to death by aliens. The aliens decides to rebuild the two as robots and leaves. From this point, we see how these two men handles being robot and how they use their newfound abilities. Inuyashiki decides to become the hero for once and helps out everyone he can, while on the other side, Hiro is acting on the totally other hand of what Inuyashiki is doing. The story of Inuyashiki is about these two men and how their views collide. On the 13th number, the manga name is Gantz. Lonely high school student Kei isolates himself out of growing sexism towards a fellow man and the cruelty they are capable of enacting. One day, while waiting to take the subway to school, Kei's classmate Masara Kato leaps onto the tracks in an effort to save a drunken man. Driven by an uncharacteristic desire to rescue someone else, Kei follows Kato down into danger. While successfully saving him, the two boys are killed by the train. Kei wakes up beside Kato in an apartment full of strangers and furnished by a giant black orb with a glass-like outer surface. After finding out that everyone in the room has recently died, words appears on the black ball tasking them with killing a strange creature. The ball equips Kei and the others with power suits and mysterious guns before sending them off to collect the bizarre bounty. One of the greatest things about this manga is the plot itself, so if you haven't read Gantz yet, you should do it right now. On the 12th number, the manga name is Goodnight Punpun. Punpun Onodera is a normal 11-year boy living in Japan. Hopeless, idealistic and romantic, Punpun begins to see his life taken a subtle, though nonetheless a very sudden turn to the adult when he meets a new girl in his class, Aiko Tanaka. It is then that the quiet boy learns just how fickle maintaining a relationship can be and the surmounting difficulties of transitioning from a naive boyhood to a convoluted adulthood. When his father assaults his mother one night, Punpun realizes another thing. Those who he looked upon were not as impressive as he once thought. As his problem increases, Punpun's once shy demeanor turns into voluntarily reclusiveness. Rather than curing him of his problems and conflicting emotions, this merely intensifies them, sends him down the dark path of maturity in this grim comic of the age saga. Though the writing is incredible, the art not only drives the story but pushes readers to experience the world of Punpun. Goodnight Punpun is an experience that will stay in readers' mind long after they close the final volume. On the 11th number, the manga name is Akira. At the time of release, Akira was possibly regarded as the greatest manga yet written, and certainly clearer to understand than Evangelion. With the modest focus on the dialogue as the engine of the plot and characters, Akira was a strange reading experience. With its static characters, repeated quarter-volume fight scenes against armies of gunmen, the movie of Akira probably distilled the vital themes and character dynamics much more sharply. The characters of Akira are not principally developed or expounded by drama or dialogue. With their world in constant collapse, there is hardly time for such things. Their characters are expounded through actions. Every line and the act of Tetsuo Kaneda and the Colonel expresses their character with utterly consistency and charisma, and every character in this manga feels real. This is a very underrated manga and I think you should read this one too. On the 10th number, the manga name is Vagabond. Vagabond is perhaps the very epitome of the great manga. It has everything: action, suspense, excitement, drama, and even a little romance. Everything that is packed into Eiji Yoshikawa's amazing original story. While I personally love Takehito Ino's drawing, that's not to say that it is to everyone's taste, of course. For those who don't mind a bit of blood, however, read on, because while Vagabond at first glance just seems to be yet another manga based on the era of samurai, this manga has a great deal of depth and literally sucks the reader in. Vagabond is, in my opinion, one of the most important titles in the recent manga history. It is in many ways one of the most ambitious manga ever created, and although it's impossible to measure individual efforts, it wouldn't surprise me if Takehiko worked twice as hard as the most of the mangakas. This manga diverges from its numerous ways to the point that it can stand on its own quite comfortably. On the 9th number, the manga name is Berserk. First of all, rest in peace Kentaro Miura. Berserk, best manga of all time or greatest manga ever. This isn't up for debate, guys. It's written in the stone. The story is incredible in every way imaginable. It starts out with few small arcs featuring the black swordsman named Guts, who hunt down demons. We aren't really sure why he does that at the beginning of the manga, but Miura indicates that there is a lot of history behind this guy. The setting is realistic fantasy at first, with dashes of supernatural and high fantasy elements sprinkled here and there. Guts doesn't appear as a very likable protagonist at first. He's rude, cynical, wooden, and somewhat insane. The only definite characters are him and his elf sidekick, Puck. There is definitely a strong sense of mystery at first with Guts. What are his motives and why he is doing all of these things feels like a huge mystery in the start of the manga. As soon as this is revealed, the manga goes into a very long flashback of Guts, which shows his entire life up to the present. It explains how he joined a mercenary group called the Band of the Hawk and became friends with the leader Griffith. We see that Guts enjoyed his life with the band and was friends with many of the mercenaries. Themes such as comradeship, identity, and love are brought upon this stark contrast with the themes in the present. On the 8th number, the manga name is Uzumaki. Mangaka Junji Ito is known for the master of creating horrifying and unsettling artwork and the stories that will likely leave any manga readers sleeping with lights on. With his series Uzumaki, Junji Ito tells the story of Kirei Goshima and her boyfriend Shuichi Saito. The couple lives in a town of Kurozucho, a town affected by mysterious supernatural happenings. As the series develops deeper into the spiral curse, both Kirei and Shuichi becomes increasingly aware of the effects the spiral cure has on the people around them. It is causing the town people to become more and more paranoid and obsessed about spirals. The story is unsettling in and of itself, but Ito's incredibly artwork is something that would be impossible to overlook or even get out of the reader's mind. The manga is a brief and it only has 19 chapters long with one extra story, but it drags the viewers and sucks the readers into the manga. On the 7th number, the manga name is Kokou no Hito. Kokou no Hito is about Mori, a young, very angsty, lifeless man who initially transferred to a new high school. In first and second chapter, Mori is goaded by the classmate into climbing up the school building, and seemingly in a trance, he does so, almost killing himself in the process as he climbed up a small pipe 4 stories up. After being scolded heavily and slapped in the face by Onishi Sensei, he is encouraged to take up climbing and take part of the local contest, of which he initially refuses but ends up going through the series of events. Mori realizes rather unconsciously that he feels alive by climbing and takes it upon almost religiously out of nowhere. And if climbing was meant for him all along, this dude also makes some funny faces sometimes. Mori then decides to take up climbing not really professionally, but as if it's the only thing that matters in the world. On the 6th number, the manga name is One Punch Man. One Punch Man, the story of the great hero Saitama, an unemployed guy who has his career in being superhero. After training for 3 years, he achieved great powers. Sadly for him, he manages to destroy any enemies in just one punch, rendering him bored and empty. The story in the manga is simple and direct. Overpowered hero fights enemies, but his attitude while doing it complements so much to the comedy. Murata Yasuke, amazing artist who worked in lot of big names before, his clear trace makes every page enjoyable. Great details in the images and clarity for understanding what exactly is happening in the pages. Saitama, the main character and the protagonist of the story, not finding thrills in the battles anymore, has left him bored and simple. He lacks any reaction to the enemy, monster or destroyer of the world. With a simple and a positive attitude, he just looks for a good fight. Personally, I have had a great time reading this manga. I look up for every new manga chapter, and I am sure that a lot of people do so too. On the 5th number, the manga name is Kakegurui. The story starts with the mysterious girl, as known as main character, enrolling a private school for rich kids. What's so special about this school is the gambling is everything in this school. Your social rank, status and everything will be lost if you are bad at gambling or if you run out of the money. And of course vice versa too. If you have a loads of money on your hand and you are good at gambling, you can have all of it. Overpowered main character enrolls into the school and basically kicks asses of the people who underestimated her, which gains a lot of attention, making her a target of the student council blacklist. Thus begins the story of the main character versus the mighty student council. The art in this manga is just brilliant. The art style captures the character's nature perfectly. Overall, it is a really good manga to read, and you can just try for the few chapters. If you like it, you can continue, or just you can drop it if you want. But please do so for your inner otaku and the sake of the mangaka. On the 4th number, the manga name is Mahou Sensei Negima. I have read this manga numerous times and it still holds the spot of my favorite story of all time in any medium. Maybe I am a bit biased, but so far as I can tell, it is also one of the most intelligent stories I have ever read. Do not be fooled by the manga's apparent nature or how it starts off. This manga makes the biggest 180-degree turn you will ever see in any story. Once you are into the latter half of the story, you will hardly recognize it. Even the characters get so much changed. If you want a bite-sized taste of this manga and how it changes, check out the OVA of Shiroki Tsubasa Ala Alba and Mohito Tsuno Sekai. They blew up my head off its socket and forced me to have the read the manga. The OVAs will spoil part of the plot, so be aware of that in your decision. On the 3rd number, the manga name is Tokyo Ghoul. At first, this manga might not have the most original concept or story. However, the way in which it is executed is excellent. Each important character has proper development and significant to the story, and none of them are there just for the sake of being there, nor are they useless, and none of them are just good or just bad. Each character is well developed and continue to develop, and none of them are completely innocent just like how it is in the real life. I appreciate the fact that the characters in this manga are kept real. Overall, an amazing manga, and the cliffhanger ending was actually the best way to end the first part. On the 2nd number, the manga name is The Way of the Househusband. Immortal Tatsu, the legendary Yakuza who single-handedly defeated a rival gang with a lead pipe, is a name known to strike fear in both hardened police officers and vicious criminals. Soon after his sudden disappearance, he resurfaces with a slight change in profession. Now equipped with an apron, Tatsu has given up violence and is trying to make an honest living as a house husband. While adapting to this task, Tatsu finds being a house husband has its own challenges. from the battlefield known as supermarket cells to the failures in the kitchen. Despite living peacefully, misunderstanding seems to follow him left and right. This manga follows the daily life of comical serious ex-yakuza as he leaves behind the dangerous previous life to become a stay-at-home husband. This cannot be lower than 10, guys. I have never read any manga that can make normal daily routines such as washing clothes or making food to be amusing as this manga portrays. On the first number, the manga name is Girl's Last Tour. Apocalyptic stories in anime comes in many forms and serve a variety of purpose. Many times the setting allows for action scenes and having a hero come into their own, something like Attack on Titan or High School of Dead. This manga takes an alternative route of using an apocalypse for object lessons on the variety of topics. The story of the Shoujo Shumatsu Ryoko isn't so much about the overarching plot as the chapter to chapter encounters and experience of the main leads Yu and Chi. The only connecting elements of the series is the girl's constant movement upward and need for supplies. Their stops along the way results in wide variety of thought-provoking situations, from the odd encounters found throughout the crumbling city. Many of these situations takes a look at modern society and norms from a future that has forgotten the reason for some inventions. The amazing marvel of technology, that is camera. Did you ever thought why humans take picture at all? And what happens when the pictures are either lost or outlived their subjects, as a single example? Some of the stops of this girl's story will teach you that. Other stops focuses on the nature of living and what one does when the world and the time as we know has ended a long time ago. And I will highly recommend you guys to read this manga or at least watch the anime adaptation of this manga. And if you are unhappy and if you are not satisfied in your life, then this manga or this anime will teach you a lot of things about your life. And I think, yeah, that was for the video. That concluded the top 15 manga with amazing art, the magnificent art that I have ever seen in my entire life. So if you have read any of these 15 mangas, then let me know your thoughts about these mangas in the comment section down below. And if you haven't read any of these mangas, then you should read one by one. And yeah, that was for today's video, guys. And if you enjoyed this video, just don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my YouTube channel because I post daily anime content about top 10 top 5 listings, anime reviews, recommendations, news, theories and all sort of anime content on daily basis. So if you enjoyed, please subscribe, and that was it, and I will see you in the next one. Sayonara.